times 1,000, and he won't even know they're there. Just put them in Russia. You think the people running Anglosphere and other parts of Western civilization don't know that? Well, they know that, sure. That's what they're worried about. He's just laughing at them, and he can do whatever he wants to do. One of the funniest things that the average person on the planet doesn't know about, they see these old Russian planes, these old Russian prop planes. Well, those old Russian prop planes, the neocons were making fun of them, like, well, they're old planes, we'll shoot them down, and yada, yada, yada. Well, you didn't see anyone in the Pentagon really laughing at that, because something strange happening when those planes started buzzing for the first time. Those neocons and whatnot mouthed off about an old plane. You see, if you go back in time, you're going to realize that we got all our stealth technology came out of World War II, and a lot of the technology came from, believe it or not, the National Socialists. Well, another group apparently went and worked for the Russians. The Russians did not take the same approach to stealth. They did not take, although they could have, they have the technology now to build a high-tech stealth bomber, but they didn't take that. It was too expensive option. You see, the Russians never had for-profit defensive industry, really, per se, until they became non-communist. The Soviet Union had a defense industry that, as long as it was working and effective, they made some upgrades, but they didn't do that. They didn't bring out like Patriot Battery 1, then Patriot Battery 2, and Patriot Battery 3. That's big business right there. Military in the Soviet Union wasn't necessarily big business. They didn't bring out AK-48, AK-49, AK-50. They did some minor improvements on the AK-47. By and large, the Russians just created asymmetrical options to take our stuff out, improved upon it, but it wasn't for profit. They're not making any money off of it, so why go through all the harangue? And to this day, they're really not. They are doing for-profit stuff, but they're not doing it like us. It's a totally different deal. For instance, we have all these aircraft carriers where they just brought out Sunburn missiles, and now, of course, we brought out a C-RAM. By the way, if you're on an aircraft carrier, you have a relative on an aircraft carrier, I suggest you look up a Sunburn missile. They're the most ruthless things ever invented. They're not that expensive, and Russia, who knows who they're selling them to. You get on someone like that's nervous, he's going to line you up and take you down. Period. End of discussion. You don't have to do it. You got all kinds of enemies. I mean, if your leaders are running around trying to run the planet, he's going to run you into the ground. And a few hundred Sunburns in every aircraft carrier you have is done, and there ain't no defense against them, or at least there wasn't until recently. Now we got the C-RAM, and the C-RAM's supposed to work, but of course every time we do that, he brings out another version of the Sunburn or something to get around it. And it's just a little tweak here, a little tweak there, and it drives everyone crazy. But his job isn't to run the planet. His job is to sit back and take it easy and look good, and everyone in the world wants to work with him. No one in the world wants to see London coming. Everyone in the world wants to work with Putty-Poot. Why? He's a real Aryan. If you're really an Aryan and you act like it, or you're real European and you act like it and you take care of your business, you won't have any problems on the planet. No one's going to work. No one's going to want to challenge you. No one wants problems. Really. No one wants Godzilla running around their backyard. No one wants their technology or anything. But, if you think your job is to run the planet, well, you're going to tick some people off. But he is consistently controlling energy flow, even in defense. When you bring out something like a Sunburn missile and start selling it around, well, you just controlled the energy flow. You just created fear in your enemies on sea. You just forced another new line of negotiations, potentially, and now they got to expend energy to come up with a new solution for that. If it is a solution, C-RAM may be a solution, but who knows? And the Russians do this cleverly, but they didn't have for-profit defense like us. In other words, they don't bring out all these solutions just to make more money. They're starting to now, but they made apparently such leaps in some areas that they don't really even care. I'm assuming we do too, but we're all about money when it comes to defense. Russians aren't necessarily like that up until recently. But I'm going to get back to the planes now. Anyway, those big ugly bombers, apparently they didn't take that approach to stealth bombers. They didn't build these expensive stealth bombers. They built another solution, some kind of plasma solution. Now, before you thinking that's a gimmick, well, apparently some of those bombers, when the neocons and those guys start making fun of them, some of those bombers just start disappearing off radar. In other words, they had this small, unique solution that was very cost effective, where they just put these little plasma emitters around a plane. And by putting these plasma emitters around the plane, they basically put some type of cloud around the plane on some level, and you can't see it. So it doesn't really matter how old the bomber is, it just matters how effective it is and whether or not you can see it. If you can't see it, there's nothing you can do, and they had them disappearing off the screen. Look it up. It seeped out. But it freaked some people out. Obviously, I mean, you could put plasma emitters on missiles. You could do anything you want to do. If you're talking about not having to rework a plane to make it stealth, but just putting a plasma, apparently they noticed it on space shuttles. They noticed it long a time ago on satellites and space shuttles. As they come back into orbit, they emit a certain kind of plasma that makes it disappear off radar. Well, the Russians re-engineered that and created basically another asymmetrical option to make stuff disappear off our spectrum of radar. And apparently, it's not a gimmick. It's for real. There's some people, I know some people that are just totally freaked out by it. Because can you imagine one morning seeing all these old bombers show up off the coast of London? Next time you know they just show up out of nowhere on radar, you got to scramble like where'd they come from? Well, they were coming down the whole time, you just couldn't see them. They've sent the message. They've sent the message loud and clear, and that's fascinating stuff. But again, he is consistently controlling the energy. You must consistently control the energy through offense. Playing defense, no one has ever controlled energy through defense. I mean, unless you're getting totally your head bashed in, you know. But you've got to take some kind of offensive action when it comes to your talking points, even in a revolution or a violent revolution. You don't get anywhere by defense. No, you don't. You got to take drastic offense, and that's another thing too. Where I grew up, it was very common to see these Africans who didn't know how to use machine guns, and they'd run around shooting everything up. And I've had some bad experiences, and you know, I've been in cars shot all to death by them. You know, someone's mad at a judge for sending him to jail or whatever, so he comes out of jail and he wants to shoot at someone white, and so a few white kids driving in a car down the street, and it can be a random thing, believe it or not. And when it comes to the 90s or the 80s and gunshots in some of the inner cities or the inner urban areas, well, it gets pretty dicey stuff. Next thing you know, he shoots it up because that's an object of his anger. You know, it happens all the time. That's a traditional ethnic conflict model. I've went into this. Some of you guys may be ticked off at Hispanics or whatever. Someone's hitting on your girlfriend, so you bite the bait. You walk up and maybe you deserved it. You punch him. Next thing you know, you're getting life in jail. Or, you know, but they don't have any power. A real revolutionary is not going to act against someone with no power. The Bolsheviks did not go after anyone without any power. They went right to the top. That's revolutionary thinking. That is how revolutionaries think. Consistently offensive, running around attacking the police. That's not offensive. They don't have any power. They don't have any power at all. You're wasting your bullets. You're wasting your time. And on top, right now, you're not in a violent struggle. I mean, next month your number could be called, but that's a different channel. I'm not the war of the flea or the war of the me. This is a velvet. I'm teaching velvet tactics. I'm teaching the basics of any type of operation that we're coming into. It's transferable, mind you. Everything's transferable because a struggle is a struggle, but at least mentally speaking, it is. But if you're running around and you think of entering, you know, you're not in the wild west yet. You may be there next month or next year, but you're not there today. Today, the game is weaving velvet. That's what's going on. Hugo Chavez did not shoot his way into power. Not that he didn't want to. It was a different game. This is a different game, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you know, you can sit out, or you can play this game or take offense. Believe it or not. If you're a violent revolutionary in a wild west scenario, well, you're the most feared deal in town, because that's what you are. You know, Fidel Castro was very feared at one time because that was the game then. The game now is not then. The game now, the people that are feared are velvet type operators. That's the deal. The pooty poots, you know, that type of thing. Although Russians can throw it at you anyway with Sunday. You know, by the way, so could Anglosphere. Yeah, they can go either way you want, but most of you would be able to too. You just have to transfer your type of thinking. But when it comes to offense, you have to consistently look to control an energy flow, because energy's got to move. Energy never stays still. It just doesn't stay still. A common sense of oppression among non-victims is very weird stuff. It's very weird stuff. It's incalculable what could happen, but that energy's got to flow. It's going to go somewhere, and it always to go somewhere. This is a very weird type of scenario. It'd be as if the Chinese tried to import non-Chinese and replace the Chinese with them. It just doesn't work that way. That's an impossible squaring a circle type of deal. But Russia is a great lesson in consistent offense and consistent